You think they stopped caring. You're wrong. The silence you're staring at right now, it's not rejection. It's a performance. And the person performing it is thinking about you more than they've ever admitted out loud. Avoidants don't disappear because they've forgotten you. They disappear because they can't handle how much they haven't. Here's what nobody tells you. The colder they act, the louder the war inside them gets. They check your profile at 2 a.m. They rewrite messages they never send. They build entire conversations with you in their head and then punish you for conversations you never actually had. And every single mind game they play, it's a clue, a fingerprint, a confession dressed up as distance. By the end of this video, you're going to read every move before they make it. You'll know exactly what their silence means, what their sudden warmth is hiding, and why the person who seems the most detached is often the one most quietly obsessed. But before we go deeper, I want you to do one thing. If you've ever been pulled in and pushed away by the same person, drop the words, "I see you," in the comments. Just those 3 words. I see you. That's how I'll know who's really listening, and that's who I'll be speaking to for the rest of this video. Now let's get into it. Mind game number 1. The sudden disappearance right after a beautiful moment. You had the perfect night. The conversation flowed. They looked at you like you were the only person in the room. You went to bed smiling, convinced something real was happening. And then morning came and nothing. No text, no call, no follow-up, just a quiet so loud it makes you question your own memory. You start wondering if you imagined the closeness. You didn't. That's the point. Avoidants run hardest right after the moments that matter most. Because intimacy doesn't scare them when it's small. It scares them when it's real. When they feel something they can't control, the only move they trust is retreat. So they vanish. Not because you were too much, because you were enough to make them feel something they swore they'd never feel again. And here's the twist. While you're sitting there wondering what you did wrong, they're sitting somewhere else wondering why you matter this much. That silence isn't absence. It's panic. And panic only shows up when something real is on the line. Mind game number 2. The slow fade that suddenly reverses. You've watched them pull away for days, maybe weeks. The replies got shorter. The energy got colder. You started preparing yourself to let go. You told your friends you were done. You almost believed it. And then, out of nowhere, a message. Light. Casual. Like nothing ever happened. A meme. A memory. A random thinking of you. And just like that, you're back in the storm. This isn't accident. This is architecture. Avoidants have a radar for the exact moment you're about to walk away. The second they sense your energy detaching, something in them panics, because losing you in theory is romantic. Losing you in reality is unbearable. So they reach back, not to commit, not to repair, just to make sure the door is still cracked open. And the cruel part? They don't even know they're doing it. They just feel a sudden urge to check on you. And they call it instinct. It's not instinct. It's obsession wearing a casual outfit. Mind game number 3, the deep conversation that goes nowhere. They open up, really open up. They tell you about their childhood, their fears, the version of themselves they've never shown anyone. You feel like you finally cracked the code. You think, this is it. This is the breakthrough. And then a few days later, they treat you like a stranger, like the conversation never happened, like you imagined the whole thing. This is one of the most confusing moves an avoidant makes, and it's also one of the most revealing, because vulnerability for them isn't connection, it's exposure. The moment they let you see something tender, their nervous system flips into damage control. They don't pull back because they regret what they shared. They pull back because they can't believe they shared it with you, specifically you, the one person they didn't want to need. And every time they retreat after opening up, they're telling you something they'll never say out loud. You got somewhere no one else has been. And that's exactly why they're afraid. Mind game number 4. The jealousy test they pretend isn't a test. Suddenly, they're mentioning someone else, a coworker, an old friend, someone who texted them out of the blue. They drop the name casually, like it means nothing, but they watch your reaction like it means everything. And if you flinch even a little, something shifts in their eyes. They got their answer. Avoidants don't ask for reassurance the way other people do. They can't. Asking would mean admitting they need something. So they test instead. They create tiny moments designed to measure how much space they still take up in your mind. And here's what's wild. The more obsessed they secretly are, the more often they test. Because the bigger you become inside them, the more terrified they are that they're not big inside you. So they poke, they prod, they drop names and wait. And every test is a confession in disguise. They're not trying to make you jealous. They're trying to find out if you still care enough to be. Before we go to the next one, let me say this. If any of these are hitting close to home, you're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not reading into things. You're finally reading the situation correctly, maybe for the first time. And that's a kind of clarity that changes everything. Mind game number 5. The hot and cold loop that feels random but isn't. One day they're affectionate, the next day they're distant. One week they're texting you constantly, the next week you're getting one-word replies. You start tracking their moods like the weather, trying to figure out what you did, what changed, what you can fix. The answer is nothing. You didn't do anything. The loop isn't about you. The loop is about them. Here's how it works inside their head. When you feel far, they feel safe. And safety makes them miss you, so they pull you close. But the moment you get close, safety turns into threat, so they push you back. Then the distance makes them miss you again, and the cycle restarts over and over forever, unless something interrupts it. And the something that interrupts it is almost never them. It's you. The day you stop reacting to the loop is the day the loop loses its power. Because the whole game depends on you being inside it, chasing the warm version, surviving the cold one. The second you stop chasing, the whole structure collapses. And that's when you see what's really there. Either a person who finally steps up or a person who never could. Mind game number 6, the breadcrumb at the perfect moment. You've been doing well. You haven't thought about them in days. You're sleeping better, laughing more, starting to feel like yourself again. And then, like clockwork, a message arrives. A story view, a like on an old photo, a "Hey stranger," out of nowhere. The timing feels supernatural. It isn't. Avoidants have an uncanny sense for when you've stopped orbiting them. And the moment they feel your gravity pulling away, they reach out just enough to pull you back into rotation. Not enough to commit, not enough to give you anything real, just enough to remind you they exist, just enough to make you wonder again. This isn't love. This is maintenance. They're not trying to build something with you. They're trying to make sure you don't build something without them. And the most powerful thing you can do in that moment is recognize the breadcrumb for what it is. A crumb. Not a meal, not a future, a crumb. And you, my friend, were not built to live off crumbs. Mind game number 7. The future talk that never becomes future plans. They paint pictures with you, trips you'll take, places you'll go, things you'll do one day. They describe a life together so vividly you can almost taste it. And then, when you try to put a date on any of it, the conversation evaporates. The plans never materialize. The trips never get booked. The one day stays one day forever. This is one of the most painful avoidant moves because it's not lying. Not exactly. In the moment they say it, they mean it. They feel it. They want it. The problem isn't the wanting. The problem is the doing. Because wanting is safe. Doing is real. And real is the one thing they've spent their whole life avoiding.
So they give you the fantasy and call it intimacy.
They give you the dream and call it commitment. And you, hoping, holding on, keep waiting for the dream to become a door you can walk through. It rarely does. Not because they don't love you, but because love for them has always lived safer in the future than in the present. Quick pause. If you've made it this far, I want you to do me a favor. Scroll down and type the words, "I see you," in the comments if you haven't already. Just those 3 words. I read every single one, and it tells me which of you actually want the deeper videos, the ones I don't post publicly. I see you. That's the signal. Now let's keep going, because the last 2 are the ones almost nobody talks about. Mind game number 8, the protective distance that looks like rejection. This one breaks people because it doesn't look like a game at all. It looks like the truth. They tell you they're not ready. They tell you they're not good for you. They tell you you deserve better. And every word sounds noble, mature, almost selfless. You walk away thinking they did the right thing. But here's what's actually happening underneath. They're not pushing you away because they don't want you. They're pushing you away because they want you too much. And they don't trust themselves to hold something this important without breaking it. So they break it first, on their terms, while they still feel in control. It's not rejection, it's preemptive grief. They'd rather lose you now, cleanly, than risk losing you later, messily. And the tragedy is, they often spend years afterward wondering what would have happened if they'd just stayed. If they'd just been brave for one more conversation, one more night, one more chance. You weren't too much. You weren't the problem. You were the exact thing they wanted, and the exact thing they were terrified to keep. Mind game number 9, the silence that speaks the loudest. This is the final one, and it's the one that tells you everything. When an avoidant is secretly obsessed with you, their silence stops being empty. It starts being heavy. You can feel it. Even when you haven't spoken in weeks, there's a presence, a weight, like they're standing on the other side of a door, breathing, not knocking, but not leaving either. They watch your stories without reacting. They drive past places they used to go with you. They keep your number even though they swore they'd delete it. They tell their friends they're over you in a tone that makes their friends know they're not. Their silence isn't absence. It's the loudest confession they're capable of making. Because saying nothing for them is safer than saying the thing they actually feel. And the thing they actually feel is this: you're still in there. You never left. And no matter how many people they meet, how many distractions they chase, how much time goes by, some part of them is still standing at that door, waiting for a version of themselves brave enough to open it. So here's where this leaves you. Knowing all of this doesn't mean you go back. It doesn't mean you wait. It doesn't mean you become a translator for someone else's fear for the rest of your life. Understanding an avoidant is not the same as being responsible for one. You are not their therapist. You are not their second chance. You are not the place where they get to work out everything they refuse to work out alone. You are a person, a whole person, with a heart that deserves someone who chooses you in daylight, not just at midnight. Someone who doesn't disappear after closeness. Someone who doesn't test you to see if you still care. Someone who doesn't hand you crumbs and call it a feast. So if you're sitting there tonight, holding your phone, wondering if they're thinking about you, here's your answer. Yes, they are. More than you know. More than they'll ever say. But that's not the question that matters anymore. The question that matters is this: are you willing to keep paying for their fear with your peace? Are you willing to keep shrinking your life to fit inside the small space they're brave enough to give you? Or are you finally ready to walk forward, knowing that someone obsessed with you in silence is not the same as someone showing up for you out loud? You don't need their confession. You don't need their closure. You don't need them to finally see what they had. You just need you. The version of you that stops decoding and starts deciding. The version of you that knows the difference between being wanted and being chosen. The version of you that walks away not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet, unshakable self-respect. Because here's the truth nobody tells you about avoidance. The ones who come back changed. And the ones who don't were never going to. Either way, your job is the same. Live a life so full, so honest, so aligned with what you actually want that whether they return or not stops being the center of your story. You become the center. You always were. You just forgot for a little while. And if this video reminded you of that, even a little, then leave those 3 words one more time before you go. I see you. Because I see you too. I see the nights you've spent overthinking, the mornings you've spent hoping, the quiet strength it takes to keep your heart open in a world that keeps teaching you to close it. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're right on time. And the love you're looking for is looking for you too. It's just not hiding inside someone who has to be convinced to love you. Real love doesn't make you audition.
Real love doesn't make you guess. Real love walks toward you, not away from you, and stays.
So take what you learned here tonight, hold it close, and the next time someone plays one of these 9 games with your heart, you won't fall for it. You'll see it, you'll name it, and you'll choose yourself anyway. Because that's what healing looks like. Not closing your heart, not hardening, just finally, beautifully, refusing to bleed for anyone who won't bandage you back. You deserve more than mind games. You deserve someone whose mind, whose heart, whose whole life finally chooses to stop playing and simply stay.